Christmas is just a week away, and an El Campo area family has just one wish this holiday: for the safe return of a 15-year-old girl missing since late last month.
Rosemary Diaz went missing just before Thanksgiving 1990.
This is the first Christmas that it's not going to be a Christmas for us.
I have a strong faith, but those few days, man, I questioned God. Why? Why can't you give me some answers?
Not only did they not know why Rosemary disappeared, but they couldn't even say what happened to her. Her family desperately was trying to find answers.
Yeah, there was nothing to go on. Because there's very little clues at the store. The only thing that was out of place is a Coke machine was pushed out of place, and a file cabinet had a dent in it that wasn't there previously. Rosemary's purse and all of her belongings were still at the location. She was just gone.
Detectives narrowed down the time frame of her disappearance to a brief window. They say she had last talked to her mother at 7:45 the night she disappeared. At 7:52, customers at Dane's Country Store called the Wharton County Sheriff's Office saying there was no clerk to be found.
Then the search began at a little after 8 o'clock. That's when the first deputies arrived on scene. So sometime between the time she talked to her mother at 7:45 and 7:52 is when she disappeared.
Remember, this was a time before cameras were everywhere, before Amber Alerts. The case grew cold. For almost 25 years, there were just no answers.
And she messaged me and said, "I have information on Rosemary Diaz. Can you please contact me?"
Then, a possible lead. Melissa Gonzalez says the tipster contacted her through Facebook.
How did she know to contact you about Rosemary Diaz?
Well, that on her remembrance thing, I shared it, and in the comments, I put that she was my mom's cousin. This is the original message.
When we met with Melissa and her mother, they showed us the messages.
I messaged her twice.
These are the messages, cryptic at first. Things like, "Can you please contact me? I have info on Rosemary." And, "It's not very promising, but the family can get closure."
When she contacted you, what did you think at first?
At first, I was like, is she lying? You know, what? Why contact me?
She knew she had to find out what this person knew.
At first, I didn't believe her, neither did my mom.
And she showed me, I said, "Who is that?" She says, "I don't know."
I started talking to her more, and she kept being persistent of me calling her or meeting up with her.
She kept on dodging the bullet. We kept on asking her, where was Rosemary Diaz at? Was she alive? And she kept on avoiding that question for a while.
Florinda Gonzalez knew they had to help if this person was for real. She remembers Rosemary and knows just how much her disappearance impacted the family.
Devastated. Devastated.
How do I put it? It made my stomach turn. It made me want to throw up.
They could not fathom that someone knew something all these years and kept quiet.
Sad. Angry. At the same time.
How can you live with yourself, keeping it a secret? Like, don't you feel bad? Like, what's wrong with you?
Hello?
So they helped investigators get in touch with that tipster.
As me, if it was my family member, I would want to find out, exactly what happened to her.
For the investigation, this was the strongest lead in decades, and this person potentially had information that could jumpstart the case. A family secret kept hidden for 25 years.
The people of the family were just scared to talk about it. I know he was violent. Like I said, the whole family was scared of him.
Scared into silence until now.
She had told me the story maybe about 2 days before she passed. She kept coming to me in my dreams, and it kept bugging me, like, somebody needs to know about her and investigate it.
After 25 years of silence, why would she come forward now? What had changed over the last quarter century? Investigators finally had their first solid lead.
So let's talk about this guy
who you believe is responsible. How do you classify him now?
Other than deceased?
In terms of the investigation?
You mean as like suspect or person of interest more than anything? And that's all I can classify him as, because he's never been, since we've known about who he is, he's been dead. He died approximately 6 months before we found Rosemary. The family's been, since our initial interviews, been tight-lipped about anything that they said prior to us getting the case. But as far as he goes, I know he was violent.
We repeatedly tried to talk to his family, but they refused to take part in our report. That info came from Benita Padilla. She was encouraged by her dying mother to come forward and share a long-held family secret. In 1990, Benita Padilla's aunt was married to Frank Merlos Rodriguez Jr. She told investigators about a night where her mother said that her aunt said Rodriguez came home late, around 2 or 3 in the morning. As the story goes, she saw him get shovels out of his shed. He left, was gone a few hours, and then was acting suspiciously when he returned.
She said that he took off his clothes. He never would put clothes in the washing machine. He put his clothes in the washing machine, that they were all, full of mud, dirty. And that he put them in the washing machine, and then she asked him, "Why are you washing clothes?" She asked him, and he said that he started crying, and that he says, "Oh, I did something I shouldn't have done." And she's like, "Well, what did you do?" And that he said, "Oh, I picked up this girl, I wasn't in my right mind."
Padilla told investigators she'd heard the girl was buried near an old travel trailer or a camper on a plot of land owned by Frank Rodriguez's family, near a spot where he used to hunt.
60 acres in the middle of nowhere. And so when Wharton County called me and we went down on that property and rode that 60 acres with a ATV, kind of scratch our head, where do we start?
Detectives reached out to Tim Miller. He runs EquiSearch, an organization that helps look for the missing, which he established after the 1984 kidnap and murder of his own daughter, Laura. One of the first things they did here was look at Google Earth views of that property from as far back as they could find. In this case, 1995, comparing to what was today. Notice here a little white dot. Here in the 2005 pic, gone. Miller thought that could be the travel trailer, a location just 6 miles from Dane's Country Store where Rosemary disappeared.
Literally, there's some force inside of me. It could be Laura's spirit. She's guided me a lot in this. To say, "Dad, start there. Start there." I mean, I got in an argument with the detective. I said, "We need to start there." And I can't say what it was. Something led me there.
So they began to dig.
Third scoop with a backhoe. We got something.
25 years to the day since she disappeared. Of course, they couldn't be sure at first. Miller says the grave was shallow, with not only the camper, but cement blocks and railroad ties placed over it. The entire stack then burned.
And then one of our guys was still sifting through stuff, and I'll never forget, he said, "Man, look what I got this ring."
Investigators found this gold and amethyst ring among the remains.
Part of me didn't want to identify it, but I'm pretty certain that it was hers.
Eventually, her family confirmed it was the ring given to Rosemary for her quinceañera. But they would have to wait months for DNA tests to positively identify the remains as those of Rosemary.
I feel like she was so close to us and we never knew, and it just breaks our heart that no one has, said anything all those years.
With the person of interest dead, would anyone ever face charges related to Rosemary's disappearance and death? And what was it about him that scared his family into silence for so long?